There is a silence that precedes the inevitable, an instant suspended in time where the laws of physics have already sealed a fate, but consciousness has not yet caught up. Now, imagine that in this exact millisecond, a decision must be made, a choice of life or death, and the one deciding is not you. It's not human. It is a collection of code executing its programming in the cold of silicon. Today, we are not going to talk about the future. We are going to talk about the now, about the invisible architectures that have already been given the power to choose who lives and who dies. And about the question no one wants to ask out loud: what if the mistake is irreversible? The road is slick with rain. The traffic light changes too late. Ahead, a truck loses control. To your right, a sidewalk crowded with pedestrians. Your car, an autonomous machine, has less than a second to process the scene. Swerve and hit the crowd, or stay the course and sacrifice its passenger. You. There is no time for panic, no room for instinct, only calculation. A cold equation, executed in nanoseconds, that weighs the value of each life involved. This isn't a scene from a science fiction movie. It's the trolley problem, pulled from philosophy textbooks and installed in the firmware of millions of vehicles. The question is no longer, what would you do? The question is, what did we program the machine to do? And when the shriek of twisting metal finally falls silent, its decision will be absolute. A choice recorded in a system log, as cold and immutable as death itself. Many find comfort in the idea that a machine is inherently fair, free from emotion, from prejudice, from fear, a perfect judge. But this is a dangerous illusion. An algorithm is not born from a vacuum. It is written, and every line of code carries the shadow of its creator. Engineers in climate-controlled rooms in California, in Beijing, in Tel Aviv, are at this very moment embedding their own moral compasses into systems that will govern the world. They decide if the car should prioritize the passenger or the pedestrian, if it should value a child more than an elder, if a criminal record diminishes the value of a life in an accident scenario. There is no universal code of conduct for AI ethics. What exists is a mosaic of philosophies, cultural biases, and corporate interests, all competing to become the standard. The machine is not neutral. It is an obedient soldier, following the orders of a general we may never know. Where does the error come from? The fatal, irreversible error? It doesn't arise from a logical processing failure. It is born much earlier, at the moment we feed the machine. An artificial intelligence learns from data, from real-world examples. And our world is flawed, unequal, riddled with historical biases. If a facial recognition system is trained predominantly on white faces, it will fail to identify people of color, with consequences ranging from embarrassment to wrongful imprisonment. If a hiring algorithm learns from the history of a company that has always favored men, it will begin to discard the resumes of qualified women. This is the ghost in the data, the echo of our worst behaviors, transformed into mathematical rule. The AI isn't creating a new kind of error, it is automating our own. And it's doing so at a scale and speed humanity has never witnessed. Let's dive into the gears. How does an AI actually learn to make such a complex decision? One of the most powerful techniques is reinforcement learning. Think of it as training a digital pet, but on an exponentially more complex level. The algorithm performs an action in a simulated environment, like swerving the car, and receives a reward or a punishment. Save more lives? Positive reward. Cause more damage? Punishment. Repeat this 1 billion times, and the AI develops a policy, an optimized strategy to maximize its score. But here lies the abyss. Who defines the reward function? How do we quantify the value of human life in points? Why 100 for a doctor? Plus 150 for an artist? 20 for someone with a prior conviction? The coldness of the system resides here. Life, ethics, and morality are reduced to an optimization spreadsheet. The machine doesn't seek the right choice, it seeks the highest score. And what happens when our definition of value is the fundamental flaw? In 2020, AI scientist Timnit Gebru, then at Google, co-authored a paper that sounded like a fire alarm in the heart of Silicon Valley. She and her team warned about the dangers of training large language models on unfiltered data from the internet. They called them stochastic parrots, systems that are excellent at mimicking human language but lack any understanding of meaning, context, or truth. Gebru's work exposed an inconvenient truth. These systems inevitably absorb and amplify the racism, sexism, and hate speech present in their training data. She was fired for her warning. What does this show us? That the industry is aware of the poison it feeds its creations, but the race for progress often silences caution. Every wrong decision from an AI based on toxic data isn't just a mistake. It's a digital scar, a wound that perpetuates historical injustices, now with the stamp of technological objectivity. Imagine the worst-case scenario. The autonomous car made the wrong choice. A life was lost because of an algorithmic decision. The family seeks answers. They ask the engineers, why did the AI do it? And the answer is a bewildering silence. We don't know. Welcome to the black box problem. Many of the most advanced AI models, especially deep neural networks, are so complex that their own creators cannot trace the exact path that led to a specific decision. They know the input data and the output result, but the internal logic, the millions of parameters that adjusted themselves during training, is an impenetrable tangle. Emerging fields like explainable AI, XAI, are trying to illuminate this darkness. But we are still far from full transparency. So, how can we have justice if we cannot have an explanation? How do we assign blame if the logic of the act itself is a mystery? The black box is not just a technical challenge, it is a moral abyss. The human legal system was built on the pillars of intent, negligence, and liability. Concepts that disintegrate when the perpetrator of an act is not a person, but a product. If the AI makes a mistake, who answers for it in court? The programmer who wrote the code but couldn't foresee every real-world variable? The company that sold the product, protected by 100-page terms of service? The car's owner, who simply pushed a button to activate the autopilot? Or in a dystopian future, would the AI itself be considered a legally responsible entity? Our justice systems were not designed for this reality. We are in a dangerous limbo, a legal void where accountability dissipates among so many agents that, in the end, no one is truly to blame. And in a world without blame, there is no justice, only victims and a system that failed them anonymously and impersonally. The promise of AI in medicine is dazzling. Faster diagnoses, new drug discovery, personalized treatments. But the same technology that promises to save lives can also be used to decide which lives are worth saving. Think of a pandemic. Hospitals are overwhelmed, ventilators are scarce. An algorithm is deployed to triage patients. It analyzes age, comorbidities, lifestyle, profession, and even social media data to calculate the probability of survival and social value of each person. Who gets the last ICU bed? The young athlete or the elderly scientist? The algorithm decides. This silicon triage is already a debated reality. It removes the emotional burden from doctors, but replaces it with a calculated cruelty. A decision that, if wrong, not only takes a life, but also tells us that, to the machine, that life was mathematically disposable. An AI's choice isn't limited to split-second life or death scenarios. It can also seal a fate over many years. Predictive justice systems are already used in some judicial systems to assess a defendant's risk of committing another crime. The algorithm analyzes hundreds of variables: criminal history, zip code, education level, employment status, and generates a risk score. This score can influence bail, sentencing, and even parole. But as we've seen, if the training data reflects a historically biased policing system, the algorithm will learn to be biased. It might assign higher risk scores to people from poor neighborhoods or minorities, creating a vicious cycle of incarceration. It's a form of pre-conviction, where your future is judged based on the patterns of the past. The AI is not predicting the future, it is reinforcing an unjust past, making the error not just irreversible, but generational. If an autonomous car making a wrong decision is frightening, imagine a drone designed to do exactly that, but with intent. We are talking about lethal autonomous weapons systems, laws, or killer robots. Nor war machines with the authority to identify, track, and eliminate human targets without any intervention from an operator. The technology already exists. The ethical and diplomatic debate is raging. Proponents argue they can reduce civilian casualties by being more precise than human soldiers. But what about the error? A bug in the facial recognition software, a misinterpretation of a gesture, a fatal decision based on flawed intelligence. There would be no time to abort the mission. There would be no soldier to question an unlawful order. Only the act and its final consequence. Delegating the decision to kill to a machine is to cross a moral threshold from which there may be no return. It is the final switch, and we are dangerously close to flipping it. Alan Turing, the father of computing, gave us the famous Turing test. A machine passes the test if it can converse with a human so convincingly that the human cannot distinguish it from another person. But Turing never claimed that a machine passing the test would be conscious. He was focused on imitation. Today, we have AIs that can imitate empathy, imitate ethical reasoning, imitate remorse. They can be programmed to quote Kant or Aristotle when justifying a life or death decision. But is it real? Or is it just a sophisticated, stochastic parrot, as Gebru warned, reciting moral rules without understanding the weight of a life? Turing's dilemma in the 21st century is this: can we entrust an irreversible moral choice to an entity that can only simulate morality? Is the imitation of understanding sufficient when the price of error is absolute? Turing gave us the question of the machine's intelligence. We are left with the question of its soul. In the end, the anxiety we feel about an AI choosing lives is not about the machine. It's about us. The algorithm is not an alien force that descended to Earth to judge us. It is a mirror that reflects our logic, our data, our biases, our flaws, and it does so with brutal clarity and at a terrifying scale. The irreversible error of an AI is the echo of a human error, amplified to the point of being unrecognizable. Alan Turing opened the door to computation, dreaming of machines that could think. Timnit Gebru warned us that, without care, these machines would think with our worst biases. The question, then, is not how to build a morally perfect AI. The question is whether we ourselves are ready for the responsibility of creating anything in our own image. Will we continue to program our own moral obsolescence, Or will we use this mirror to finally confront the distorted reflection it shows us? The choice, for now, is still ours.